Good afternoon, and welcome to our presentation, A Manufacturer's Guide to Best-in-Class Supply Chain Traceability. My name is Adrienne Selko, and I'm the online editor for Industry Week, which is producing this event. Today's webinar is sponsored by Apriso. During today's webinar, you'll learn how global track and trace can help drive and sustain your company's lean manufacturing and Six Sigma programs. At Industry Week, our mission is to connect manufacturing decision makers to share ideas and tools that inspire action. We strive to provide information that helps you make better decisions to achieve your goals. Today's webinar brings together members of the manufacturing community to discuss strategic and operational issues. As part of this webinar, we have a live Q&A session. Our speakers today will address as many questions as they can during the last portion of the event. However, please submit your questions throughout the webinar. To send in a question, type it into the Ask a Question box at the bottom left of your screen, then click the Submit button. Wherever possible, please direct your question to a specific speaker. This webinar is being recorded, and it will be available on demand for you to view. We encourage you to direct coworkers to the recorded presentation. You'll receive an email with a link to the on-demand version in a few days. The recording will also be available on the industryweek.com website in our webinars area. We ask that you please disable your pop-up blocker during this event. If you're using Internet Explorer, you can disable the pop-up blocker by going into the Tools menu, clicking Internet Options, then choosing the Privacy tab at the top. If the presenter's slides are not advancing, or if you're having problems with audio, try pressing the F5 key at the top of the keyboard. This will refresh the webinar console on your screen. To adjust the volume, look for the volume control slider in the lower right corner of your screen. You may also need to adjust the master volume of your computer system. Also in the lower right corner, you should see several buttons. The Launch Survey button brings up a feedback form, which we'd like you to complete at the conclusion of the presentation. We'll push the survey out to you as we approach the end of the event. Next, the Full Screen Mode button lets you enlarge the webinar player. Below that, you'll see a Download Slides button. This links to a PDF of all the presenter slides so that you can save or print the presentations. And finally, the Help button brings up a series of troubleshooting tips. I'd like to introduce today's speaker. We have with us Rick DeLisa, who is Industry Director for Aerospace and Defense, Consumer Goods, Life Sciences, and Packaging for Apriso. Rick has over 22 years of experience in technology and service businesses within highly regulated markets. He leads Apriso's industry practice aimed at technology transfer, paperless production, quality assurance, manufacturing efficiency, and track and trace solutions. We also have with us Fred Thomas, who is Industry Director of Automotive, Clean Tech Energy, Industrial Machinery and Equipment. Fred has over 25 years' experience with technology application and management with automotive OEM, Tier 1 suppliers, and enterprise software providers. In his 6th year at Apriso, he currently leads Apriso's industry practice for automotive clean tech machinery. He focuses on strategies and solutions to support global, complex discrete manufacturers, emphasizing the importance quality plays in manufacturing competitive advantage. I'd like to turn the call over to Fred.
Thank you, Adrienne. Next slide, please. Traceability is a cross-industry issue that impacts all manufacturers. To many manufacturing professionals, traceability initiatives have traditionally been viewed as a regulatory or customer compliance mandate. In other words, something that had to be done for the purpose of meeting legal or contractual obligations. Almost a necessary evil, if you will. Every industry is facing the challenge in their own ways. To address as many of these as we can, I will be reviewing some examples from discrete manufacturing industries, while Rick will join us later on to review the process industry pains, needs, and examples. Next slide, please. Let's start by level setting on terminology. Traceability. Traceability refers to the completeness of the information about every step in a process chain, the ability to verify the history, location, or application of a production process that can be documented and recorded. Traceability is about where it's been in the source of a product's contents. Genealogy. Genealogy is the as-built information, or what's it made of, which identifies all parts, materials, and subassemblies used in the construction of a given product. I should note that forward and backward traceability against genealogy is very important. Backward traceability by itself is not enough. Interlocking traceability. Interlocking traceability is a more comprehensive form of traceability that comprises a more complete history and collection of processes that can be documented and recorded. Track and trace. Track and trace is a systemic approach to improve the integrity of products in their supply chains. Tracking is about knowing where a product is and how it got there. Traceability is about going in reverse. Piracy and counterfeiting are major threats to tobacco, life sciences, and consumer goods manufacturers. There are brand image, taxation, and lost revenue implications, which makes track and trace programs that much more critical to these manufacturers. Defect or spill containment. Containment of defects, sometimes called and referred to as spills, is the ability to use genealogy and traceability information to identify and isolate suspected non-conforming products. While zero defects is always the goal, the ability to quickly contain spills is essential for risk mitigation related to recall actions, customer complaints, and warranty costs. Ultimately, it's about protecting your brand. Next slide, please. While compliance remains a compelling reason for adoption, a strong argument exists that the stories reported daily across both the general and business press, involving everything from tainted food, defective medical devices, and suspect equipment failures in both automotive and aerospace, offer even greater validation of the need to adopt and implement a comprehensive traceability solution. But unlike past practice, we would contend that plant-centric approaches to traceability are ill-advised and offer little in terms of business benefits beyond rudimentary compliance. The chart that you see before you is from an Aberdeen Group market report titled Compliance and Traceability in Real Time, and it indicates a growing list of business drivers beyond compliance that support the need for adopting a comprehensive traceability strategy. It's notable that compliance was not the primary reason survey respondents gave for traceability adoption, as has traditionally been the case in a number of industries. The need to improve quality and achieve higher customer satisfaction was cited as the top reason, and the need to reduce the number and severity of quality, noncompliance, and recall actions actually equaled the percentage who said regulatory compliance was driving traceability actions within their company. It's clear from the Aberdeen study that the business pressures driving focus on traceability extend far beyond compliance and now encompass the broader goals of manufacturing excellence, including cost efficiency, product quality, and product innovation. These findings point to a need for a global approach to traceability that addresses, number one, the need for governance of manufacturing processes and systems. Number two, an approach that is planned strategically while implemented tactically across the manufacturing enterprise. And number three, leverages software technology that provides flexibility in processes and uniformity of information across the entire enterprise supply chain. Next slide, please. So given the broader set of business pressures that are driving increased focus in traceability and compliance strategies, what specific actions in manufacturing are companies keying in on in response? From the same Aberdeen Group study, incorporating compliance and traceability measures within production processes is the priority for both best-in-class manufacturers as well as the average and laggard manufacturers. From our point of view, this is a logical response, as production processes are the foundation platform for implementing all improvements in the manufacturing environment. As you read through the other strategic actions, it becomes very clear that compliance is not the primary driver for implementing traceability systems any longer. Product quality, production visibility, supply chain control, and overall manufacturing agility and flexibility are clearly driving the investment agenda today. Let's take a look at how one manufacturer has established a flexible solution to handle a dynamic supply chain situation while ensuring continuity and integrity in and around their traceability requirements. Next slide, please. An Apriso customer who manufactures semiconductors found themselves in a high-growth situation as they entered the automotive electronics market. With this expansion, it was necessary to establish a semiconductor wafer testing process within their electronic device production line. Most importantly, the customer recognized the need for streamlined production processes that offered real-time visibility capable of responding to frequently shifting market demand and supply chain conditions. Burdened with legacy systems that provided little real-time visibility, were not designed to support lot traceability, and were inflexible to change, the customer worked with Apriso to implement our flexible BPM platform, that's Business Process Management Platform, to establish and maintain business processes spanning their production, logistics, quality, maintenance, and employee tracking systems. The Apriso platform was also used to improve supply chain operations, extending visibility and control to their third-party suppliers and contract manufacturers. Next slide, please. Today, operations processes are now centrally managed through web-based user interfaces, enabling remote applications monitoring while adhering to strict corporate security policies. Data and processes have been built from a unified data model so they are easily shared across departments. Visibility into third-party supply chain processes is now easily supported with lot genealogy and traceability integrity maintained throughout the supply chain. Each of these functions has been made possible by constructing and managing business processes with an IT infrastructure built on a services-oriented architecture, an integral design component of the Apriso solution. Using a web-based interface, the Apriso solution makes it easy to create business processes that span both internal operations as well as their supply chain, with the visibility to easily update and manage these processes as often as needed. For the customer, this design has virtually future-proofed their business processes, ensuring sufficient agility across operations to support their expansion in this highly dynamic marketplace. Next slide, please. But is a comprehensive traceability solution enough? What if a defect goes undetected on the line? Is 100% inspection really the answer? What's the impact if hundreds, thousands, or even millions of defective products reach your customer? How many products will I manufacture before I actually become aware of the problem? It's our position that traceability today is not enough, that the real-time world we live in requires manufacturers to address suspected non-conformances, defects, or spills in the real-time manner which today's 24/7 news cycle operates. We believe that the next level of operational performance requires manufacturers to maintain a global containment capability. Next slide, please. As I referenced earlier in this presentation, defect containment, sometimes called spills, is the ability to use both genealogy and traceability information to identify and isolate suspected non-conforming products. It's appropriate to view a strong systematized containment capability as really part of your comprehensive quality management strategy. As illustrated in this chart, the further a product travels through the manufacturing process, both time to detect and, more importantly, cost to fix go up. Once products reach the distribution chain, the cost curve will go up exponentially. This is especially true in today's 24/7 news cycle and the global marketplace. While zero defects is the goal of any production process, the ability to quickly contain spills is essential for risk mitigation related to recall actions, customer complaints, and warranty costs. Ultimately, it boils down to protecting your it's important at this point to highlight the difference between quality management and containment. I've really just grouped these side by side, and we'll just walk through them very quickly. Quality management, or QM, prevents nonconformances, while containment isolates or contains, but isolates and identifies nonconformances. QM uses inspection, sampling, tests, and trending to help prevent defects. Containment deals with the unpredictable and the unknown. QM is built into the routine or common processes which are used every day by the line workers. Containment processes are exception and are executed by quality managers and engineers on an infrequent basis. QM incorporates preventative measures in those common processes used by the line workers. Containment, on the other hand, helps identify new preventative measures in support of continuous improvement and Six Sigma programs when called upon in an exception situation. QM ensures that quality is built in, helping to reduce overall costs. Containment helps mitigate risk and protects the brand. You can think of containment as an insurance policy. You don't want to use it often, but when you do, the protection provided has potentially significant financial benefit to you and your corporation. Next slide, please. To my point, and I don't want to dwell on this, but I think the numbers are quite compelling. These headlines clearly indicate that containment matters. Regardless of what your reputation is today, regardless of what your position is in the marketplace, the ability to quickly isolate and deal with suspected nonconformances is paramount in protecting your brand reputation. Next slide, please. Let me talk about another customer. This customer, a large global powertrain manufacturer, engaged with Apriso to implement a solution supporting their flexible manufacturing model. One of the most formidable challenges surfaced in the area of quality. Specifically, this quality challenge manifested itself in the ability to isolate customers from defective product, whether it was produced internally or provided from within the customer's supply base. Traditionally, manufacturing processes and systems were dedicated to a single product supported by local sourcing and or in-house component machining to fill regional market demand. Product traceability and containment in this model required really very basic processes and systems. This is in contrast to the new model, the current model, which is based on flexible manufacturing sites that produce multiple products, are supported by a global supply base, and are capable of fulfilling component and final product demand for multiple regions. In this scenario, traceability and containment become exponentially more complex. As is noted on the slide, components traced number from a low of 6 to over 300 for each of the unique products where this solution is used. Working with Apriso, the customer has seamlessly integrated quality containment, or defect containment, as I referred to it earlier, across their manufacturing operations, helping to provide global visibility and control over production and logistic processes while integrating with both customer proprietary and SAP ERP systems. Unlike most traceability solutions designed for product and component identification within the four walls of a single plant, the quality containment capabilities developed by this customer in Apriso can precisely identify, isolate, and hold components and finished products within a plant, a country, a region, or even across the entire global manufacturing and supply network for the customer enterprise. Next slide, please. Continuing on with the same customer, in contrast to their traditional local or regional manufacturing practices, the shift to a more agile and flexible manufacturing platform on a global basis demands a new approach to IT to ensure production and quality data is captured, monitored, and shared across the entire product supply network on a near real-time basis to support support marketplace demand or prevent suspected material from reaching the customer base. Time is a critical factor in responding to potential defective part situations and is exponentially more difficult to manage within the global manufacturing network using traditional IT solutions for traceability and containment. As outlined in the slide that is on your screen now, the customer's deployment of Apriso's manufacturing platform technology has allowed them to automatically cross-contain suspect parts across plants and well into the supply base in just a matter of hours versus a previous capability that required enormous manual effort to identify, locate, and hold suspect parts. Summarizing the benefits that this customer has documented after implementing their global platform for manufacturing, traceability, and containment using a Apriso solution, they have improved first-time quality of their products through precise, automated, and timely containment, implemented a complete inbound and outbound supplier quality check system, reducing suspect material from being introduced to the manufacturing value chain. They've supported continuous improvement efforts within the organization for lean material replenishment processes, including sequencing, subline scheduling, and kitting. They've reduced their line-side material quantities and the associated floor space, and they've reduced IT support risk, complexity, and expense. As we saw in the Aberdeen market studies that I spoke of earlier, implementing comprehensive traceability strategies and solutions on a global platform go far beyond compliance. As evidenced by the customer examples I've spoken about, they are using traceability requirements as a platform from which to drive lower cost, operational flexibility, and ultimately competitive advantage. Now let me turn the presentation over to my colleague, Rick Galisa, to share additional information from other industries.
Thank you, Fred. So we've covered some very interesting examples in the discrete automotive and industrial machinery industries, and we're now shifting the discussion towards examples in batch industries. Fundamentally, similar supply chain and traceability issues, but clearly different manufacturing models. Do we have a slide change, Adrian?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So here's a typical flow that you would find in one of many different type of many manufacturing areas that you would distinguish as batch manufacturing. You would typically have raw and packaging materials receiving, quality control, your weigh and dispense operations, batch production, which would consist of granulation, mixing, heating, drying, etc., transfer of work in progress in tanks or piping networks, in-process quality control, a lot of packaging, filling, packing, labeling, very, very important aspects for correct orders, finished goods quality control, and of course the supporting activities, labor management, machine downtime, and throughout this, all of the traceability aspects that need to be built into the product, capturing material suppliers, processes in manufacturing, personnel who participated in the manufacturing, and equipment used. Slide, please. This chart from a recent Gartner report titled Track and Trace, the Healthcare Value Chain Pulse Check, representing over 100 survey responses from across the healthcare industry, indicates a growing understanding of the multiple benefits gained in adopting a comprehensive track and trace approach across the entire value chain. Considering the fact that this study is from the healthcare industry, it's all the more surprising that for the first time, Gartner recorded responses indicating that compliance was not the primary reason for track and trace adoption. Order fulfillment accuracy was cited as the top reason, and greater inventory visibility trailed compliance by only 1%. While this study originates from the healthcare industry, We believe the majority of the business benefits cited in the study are universal in nature and offer solid justification for investment in comprehensive track and trace enterprise solutions. Also substantiate some of the facts that Fred shared with you from other industries. The consistent notion that track and trace and traceability is for operational efficiencies and the perfect order concept for customer satisfaction, and compliance is a component of it, but not the leading component of why manufacturers are looking to these solutions. Next slide, please. So, study by Gardner that I thought was appropriate here. It was published earlier this year, essentially capturing common supply chain issues across industries. So this is no longer specific to life sciences or healthcare. So regardless of the industry, there's an ever-changing drive for more appealing products, greater customer value creation, and ultimately design efficiencies in products and processes. On a macro level, most global companies see BRIMC markets, Brazil, Russia, India, Mexico, and China, as strategic opportunities key to their future growth. They're also realizing that in order to be successful, they need to redefine and align their existing supply chains. So these pressures, coupled with the uncertainty of new supply chain partners, local laws, and intellectual property protection or lack thereof, put an increasing burden on traceability for brand protection, compliance with local ordinances and global standards, and operating efficiencies. So corporate governance to really drive transformation and the enabling technologies that are selected are fundamental to which companies will thrive in these changing environments and which will not. Slide, please. I'd like to share some slides from a presentation given by Jacques Clay, L'Oreal's CIO operations, during the Hanover Manufacturing Summit. As the slide builds, you can see where their operations span globally. L'Oreal is the world's largest beauty products company and a highly recognized image-conscious organization. It produces over 4.7 billion units of product from 40 cosmetic plants worldwide. Now, historically, L'Oreal has positioned their manufacturing plants close to their markets, both for strategic and logistical reasons, and to reduce time to market, especially around new product introduction. The ability to make the same product anywhere is critical to their operating philosophy, as it underscores the importance of brand consistency, customer experience, and globally coordinated new product launches. Slide, please. L'Oreal is a forward-thinking corporation in customer intimacy, talent development, and sustainability initiatives. They sum it up themselves as, if you sell well-being, you need to be part of the planet's well-being. So their operational objectives naturally derive from this philosophy. They care about the environment and the safety of their people. They are all about guaranteeing the perfect order, the perfect quality for the customer experience that they wish to create. Innovation in their processes and packaging are key for both their profitability and their sustainability efforts. And overall level of service to serve their markets and time to market are critically important to them. Slide, please. To effectively marry their goals and business drivers, L'Oreal positioned itself as a leading global IT user, both in the terms of technology and user-friendliness, by implementing an integrated manufacturing operations system across its manufacturing sites worldwide. Corporate leadership articulated very clear improvement goals and empowered a structure to govern operational excellence and risk management. In order to reap benefits early while reducing risk and costs, L'Oreal executed a dual platform approach by implementing both ERP, in this case SAP, and a manufacturing operations solution from Apriso in an integrated fashion, site by site, using a common core development and deployment model. So created centrally with best practices and then deployed tactical sites with the same solution. This model allowed L'Oreal to capture best practices in supply chain management, including operational logistics, production management, and quality management, and to drive operational excellence uniformly through the organization by implementing the applications with L'Oreal's best practices across worldwide sites. From the corporate level, you'll appreciate their clear focus to deploy unified best practices across plants and provide visibility, traceability, and control while managing to stringent quality regulations, including FDA. Next slide, please. What we show here is an integrated architecture for the process flows. It starts off on the left side of the chart, where they bring in the receipt of components and raw materials. Quality is controlled and materials stored or either sent directly to processing stages, through to finished goods, and then on to shipping. As a result, the sites that use the manufacturing operation systems can rigorously apply the production procedures that optimize product quality and traceability while virtually guaranteeing personnel and client security and product integrity. Traceability and supply chain information are available in real time throughout the organization, which is fundamental to providing the agility they require to market changes, new product introductions, forecast changes, the things that occur on a daily and hourly shift basis in any manufacturing, regardless of the industry you're involved with. Apriso's operations management solution provides a flexible platform that lends itself to the core deployment model approach while providing the out-of-the-box, real-time warehouse, logistics, production, and quality management functionality that L'Oreal required. Next slide, please. The Apriso functional scope covers the elements of manufacturing through the weighing and dispensing, processing, packaging, and quality. On the material handling side, it differs from discrete businesses. It covers the inbound and internal and outbound flows. It covers subcontracting as well as the pipes, the tanks, the containers, and the license plates on the pallets. So as the product flows, they need to know and have to document what was used to manufacture a given lot of given product. Inside the warehouse, they cover the product storage conditions, the cycle counting and inventory control, as well as specific or FIFO rules. Lastly, L'Oreal also included machine time and labor tracking to the functional scope, helping them with their ongoing product costing. It is this level of visibility that allows full traceability and control over suppliers, processes, equipment, and personnel. Next slide, please. So the lessons learned, as Jacques presented this, were really threefold. In their case, it was begun as a fairly large IT project that was going to transform how they provided business, how they conducted business in their supply chain. So for an ERP project targeting supply chain and manufacturing activities, it's wise to include a globally deployable manufacturing operations solution sooner than or in conjunction with ERP. They firmly believe that decoupling these efforts would not have worked because manufacturing excellence really required perfect SAP and Apriso integration. One could not work without the other. It also would have created more risks from the point of user acceptance. It would have created more costs with interfacing and legacy system maintenance. Lastly, and certainly not leastly, corporate leadership and a strong governance model were pivotal in pushing the L'Oreal's operational maturity curve from optimized plants to an optimized fleet of operational assets. This approach enabled the corporation to focus on well-communicated end goals that include a crusade for continuous improvement. Next slide, please. Shifting to another customer, British American Tobacco, we'll discuss traceability to the point of purchase. BAT is an Apriso customer currently deployed across 7 sites in Europe, Asia, Africa, and South America. Many of the challenges that we have discussed to this point apply here as well. Certainly new product introduction, very large number of stock keeping units, in their case fewer plants serving more markets for efficiencies, and clearly alignment and realignment to efficiently serve the BRIMC, the Brazil, Russia, India, Mexico, Chinese markets. BAT's management drive efficiency measures in their plants and really sees technology as a key enabler. They operate in a truly global environment and sometimes in very remote locations. As such, BAT encourages plants to prioritize their improvement opportunities, whether they are in primary, secondary, or warehouse operations, and to implement technology accordingly, eventually covering full manufacturing operations. So working towards a broad footprint, but starting in a tactical, successful, definable project scope. What is also unique about them is their approach to extended track and trace capabilities. Corporate has sponsored several pilots and worked with authorities to plan and execute extended track and trace solutions across their manufacturing enterprise. Next slide, please. This presentation was given at this year's ARC Advisory Group Summit by Eduardo Salas from BAT's Mexico operations. So we've touched on the concept of brand protection. In a perfect world, that means the right product at the right place at the right time with the expected quality consistency. However, in many consumer markets, illicit trade is a very large problem. In fact, besides the tobacco industry, it cuts across a much larger path of commerce in pharmaceuticals, apparel, fashion products, electronics, aerospace and defense, component manufacturers, many places you would not normally think susceptible to fraudulent or illicit activities. With the level of taxation on tobacco products, you can appreciate the incentive for criminals to redirect or counterfeit these products, avoid paying taxes, and profiting handsomely. In fact, the legal risk is considerably less than dealing drugs and can be just as lucrative. BAT estimates between $20 to $40 billion on a global basis in tax revenues are lost to governments due to illicit trade. So companies like BAT are not only losing protection of their brand, but they're liable for substantial fines from governments unhappy with these significant lost tax revenues. So in the case of regulatory taxation and brand, so this is a case of regulatory taxation and brand protection. However, in other industries, such as pharmaceuticals, it is all about ensuring customer safety from counterfeit products and, of course, the related brand protection, fallouts, and liabilities that ensue. Please. BAT Mexico is located in Monterrey, and they serve all of the markets for both Mexico and Canada. Their product mix increased significantly after absorbing Canadian operations. They went from making 13 billion units across 46 stock-keeping units or products, a very high-volume, low-mix manufacturing environment, to then adding another 13 billion units across over 1,000 stock-keeping units, effectively accommodating a high-volume, fairly high-fixed manufacturing environment. The plant had to become agile to quick brand changes in manufacturing runs and forecasted changes, exacerbating the challenges of quality consistency and traceability in the plant itself. Then came the changes from the taxation authorities in Mexico, so BAT embarked on a track and trace project to provide authentication to the distribution and at the consumer level. This initiative pilot possibilities for the corporation that allowed them to stay in lockstep of the taxation authorities. Next slide, please. BAT has now successfully completed a project that allows authorities to verify at point of sale the traceability and genealogy back to the plant, including lines, suppliers, date of manufacturer. This can be done to the carton, box, pallet level, and to the point of sale pack level. As stated earlier, this was worked in conjunction with the Mexican taxation authorities, and there is now a much larger initiative within BAT for additional track and trace systems on top of the manufacturing supply chain efficiencies provided by Apriso. This is very similar to what is underway in pharmaceutical markets today in Turkey, Brazil, Sweden, and upcoming in California. Industry groups such as RX360 are actively seeking agreements on standards and data repositories with governments, but it's fair to say that traceability to the consumer will become enforceable in the very near future. In fact, California's ePedigree initiative, essentially an extensive genealogy for drugs, goes into law starting 2015, with other countries already establishing pilots or enacting their own laws. Extended traceability begins with full control of manufacturing supply chain operations. Smart manufacturers have been evaluating options for some time, and frankly, those without manufacturing operation systems are at a clear disadvantage. Next slide, please. So you can see some of the results relative to the production facilities in BAT's enterprise that, coupled with highly efficient, flexible manufacturing operation, Apriso enables BAT Mexico to drive product authentication to counter illicit trade while keeping in line with taxation authorities. This is good for operational efficiencies, brand protection, and compliance, and within British American Tobacco, is clearly seen as a success to be emulated across other operations. Next slide, Adrian, please. So takeaways, consistency across Apriso's different industries that are served, different customers beyond the four or so that have been discussed here today. These are some takeaways. These are some organizational characteristics that our customers consistently cite as key to successfully creating full traceability and efficient manufacturing within their supply chains. Slide, please. Leadership and governance. Let's face it, manufacturing technology investments have lagged ERP, S&OP, CRM, demand sensing, and other very high-profile initiatives for many years. In that void, plant managers have pushed efficiency of their respective plants by using point solutions and being very creative. Corporate leadership and governance is required to push efficiency, including traceability, from the plant level to a corporate fleet of manufacturing assets. This means championing the importance of a flexible, robust, and absolutely traceable supply chain aimed at synchronizing individual plants to maximum effectiveness. In many markets, all of this is in the midst of some profound changes corporations are enacting in order to get into some of the new emerging markets. Slide, please. So we spoke earlier about planning strategically and implementing tactically. This really is a paradigm that needs to be embraced, and we hear this from, again, our customers who've been successful deploying us. Essentially getting momentum by addressing a visible issue across many plants and building on it towards a broader and defined set of strategic priorities has been one of those key characteristics our customers have shared with us. If you have a major ERP project or a redo, by all means, plan and execute in tandem, or better, move manufacturing operations in advance so manufacturing and customer flows are managed. Most companies are either overwhelmed with their ERP work to truly accommodate manufacturing operations at the plant level, so this can be an organizational challenge. Disrupt the organization only once. People are generally wary of change, so a direct and consistent approach is clearly better than ERP with the associated manufacturing fixes and integration packages to then be followed by another wave of manufacturing changes. Next slide, please. And thirdly, pick the right partners. Technology and deployment methodologies will absolutely make or break multi-plant, multi-year supply chain programs. It is important to consider business process-driven configuration, unified data models, and services-oriented architecture from a technological perspective. It is equally important to have a proven, large-scale, core deployment model that delivers waves of installations with leverageable cost and time structures. Next slide, please. Lastly, it is imperative that your technology partner has a mindset that your team have control over their own destiny with training, business process configuration, and a robust partner ecosystem. Slide, please. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your participation today. Fred and I would be delighted to talk with you about your own manufacturing operational challenges and explore ideas together. Our contact information are above. At this point, I will thank you and turn it back over to you, Adrian.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Before we get to our Q&A, I just want to ask our audience to please take a few moments to fill out our feedback form. We ask that you disable your pop-up blockers so you can receive this form. The first question is for Fred, and the question is, what steps should I take if I want to improve traceability across my plants?
Well, obviously you must take care of any immediate compliance requirements that you may have. But beyond those immediate needs, you really want to step back and take a look at your current manufacturing process maturity, even your IT systems maturity that's being used for existing traceability and or compliance requirements. You know, do you really understand the key performance indicators that maybe aren't being met on a consistent basis? Do you really have a good handle on the disparity of manufacturing processes that may exist between plants? As we saw earlier in the Aberdeen study, you know, really building compliance and traceability into your production processes is the number one priority for somebody that wants to go to the next level. You know, I would also, and I believe Rick highlighted this as one of the three takeaways, you know, get recognition and acknowledgement. Put this on the agenda of your executives for not just traceability and compliance, but really global traceability and compliance. You know, build the business case that will get your executives excited about moving forward. You're probably collecting some of the key data right now that can help you build that business case. Dig into what you have and really put this forward. And there's significant data in the industry from analysts, and certainly there are companies such as Apriso that would be glad to work with you to help build those business cases. But really it boils down to having a good understanding of where you're at, starting to build into your existing processes really the traceability and compliance requirements that you have, while at the same time looking at the bigger picture, the long term, and building the business case for a global platform approach that encompasses all of your manufacturing operations.
Great, thank you. The next question is for Rick. How long did it take for these customers to roll out their traceability solutions across their plants?
That is an interesting question. So we have customers who have implemented portions of our solution in very, very quick order, 3 months, through remote medical visibility from their final assembly and quality testing plant in Japan, down to their subcomponent assembly supplier in China. Very quick turnaround, a lot of value add, helped them streamline their workflows, anticipated what was coming in when so that they could fulfill orders in a timely fashion. And then we have on the other end of the spectrum, companies that take a very broad, holistic approach. L'Oreal is a good example. They did it on a very rapid basis. They took a 5-year view initially from the beginning of their journey to do a full-blown ERP and operations management implementation, which is pretty quick when you think about it. Since we're really covering 40 plants, we're talking about an average of 8 plants a year, and it's clearly it starts off smaller and it accelerates as you start to deploy faster and faster. BAT in the example given there, a lot of their projects were specific to manufacturing operation initiatives they had in one part of their plant, so could put it in and start reaping rewards 4 to 6 months. So it does vary. Depends not just on the industry you're in. For instance, if you're in a regulated environment, you would have to accommodate things like validation, which we help with. And that obviously adds some time, but that's common in the industry. Or A&D, where you have to work within the confines of government contracts and some of the inherent bureaucracy around getting access to facilities. But by and large, companies have the ability to define a scope that can be tactically implemented to gain momentum and build the momentum behind the success. But hopefully they're stepping back and really thinking and planning strategically and buying technology that can support their strategic solutions going forward.
Okay, thank you. The next question is for Fred. What's a reasonable amount of investment for a traceability solution?
Now there's the $64 million question, and that's not what the investment cost is. Let me just clarify. Now, it's certainly a question that's on the edge of everyone's mind when they sit through a session like this. And I really hate to do this, but there's not a number I can give as to what's reasonable is going to be defined by your company, the size of your company, the industry that your company's in, your manufacturing processes. The variables are limitless with regard to what defines, quote, reasonable investment. What I would say, though, is as we talk about traceability and compliance solutions as part of a broader manufacturing operations excellence program, it's really important to note that the Big Bang theory here does not apply. You can deploy, you can look at your organization and roll out and deploy global traceability and compliance solutions, not in a Big Bang approach where you risk untold hardship if something goes wrong. You can actually stage it in a very, conservative manner, so that you really address the highest, most critical needs that you have, both from a compliance and a traceability standpoint, but from a business standpoint as well. So I don't want, one of the things I'd like to leave with the audience today is the fact that, wow, man, as soon as you start talking global, the price goes up, the time goes out, because it's more than we can take on. You need to really look at this carefully, because a global deployment can be scaled so that it's effective, it's fast, it's cost efficient, and most importantly sets a proper foundation. If it's a platform-based solution such as Apriso, sets a proper foundation for continuous improvement going forward, and that's a real key. So you the money now, you can actually stage this over time to meet the needs of your company and to meet your budget parameters.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rick. The question is for you. You mentioned governance. Have you noticed any trends in governance across different industries?
I think to a great extent it's not driven by industry, but it's driven by the philosophy of the management. And I shouldn't discount industry. There is a clear example that I can give where that applies. So governance is really all about leadership. It's about the desire to transform what could be very efficient plant-by-plant operations into a federated fleet of supply chain that has flexibility, greater visibility, and efficiencies by virtue of how you're managing those assets versus the concept of governance from a regulated perspective. That's not at all what I mean. It's more about management philosophy and the desire to change and transform their own supply chain operations. So with regards to industry, though, I will give you the two ends of the spectrum. The automotive industry excels in lean. They have had to excel in lean for survival. That's in their DNA. It has been the case for many, many years. Life sciences customers, on the other hand, have just in the recent past begun embarking on lean initiatives. And I mean recent, in the past 8 years, 10 years. Those are two widely differing industries, and they were margin rich on one hand and margin thin on the other. So it definitely did direct management's leadership to say, golly, perhaps we should be looking at greater efficiencies across our supply chain and not just optimizing a particular plant because it's so margin rich in what it produces.
Okay, I think we've got time for one last question. Fred, this is for you. Do you have any examples of manufacturers rejecting supplier parts prior to these parts being used on the line due to poor quality?
Absolutely. It happens every day in automotive operations around the world. Inspection plans today on material receipt are really very stringent and actually have been implemented by most of the major manufacturers around the world. So keeping suspect parts, even suspect parts, not necessarily non-conforming, but even parts that they suspect of being non-conforming, it's paramount to keep them out of the manufacturing operation at the earliest point possible. So this is not unusual. This is something that is really something that occurs every day in most industries, specifically myself talking about automotive. It happens at plants around the world continuously. And again, I don't want to emphasize that it's a common occurrence, because I believe the Tier 1 and Tier 2, Tier 3 supplier community are increasing their quality with regard to their conformance to specs. So it's really an industry-wide thing from an automotive point of view, where quality is increasing. So this is not certainly as frequent a situation as it was, but at the same time, it is something that occurs every day, and I think most companies are doing everything possible to keep defective parts out of the final manufacturing loop.
Okay, great. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I'd like to thank Rick and Fred for an excellent presentation today. And I'd like to remind our audience that this webinar will be available on the industryweek.com website in the next few days. Feel free to log in to view it again or to encourage your colleagues to view it. And also look for a follow-up email which will direct you to the recording. Join us for our next webinar on July 28th entitled The Productivity Growth Mandate, Why Manufacturers Need to Align Future Strategies Around Heightened Productivity. I'd like to thank the audience for their time today, and everyone, have a nice day.